Last episode, I spent 12 hours decorating my log flume to make the ride more immersive, but I left this entire mountain behind me untouched. Today, we're going inside this mountain and we're going to create an immersive scene for the riders of the log flume to enjoy before they then drop down into this lake on the outside. And as always, I'd like to say a huge thank you to Cyberpower UK for sponsoring this episode. So I do have a bit of a plan for this mountain interior, and well, in fact, the first thing I'm going to do is just to turn up my brightness here so you can actually see what we're looking at in here. There we go, much better. But my plan for this interior is to create a fantasy style kind of lush cave type thing. Basically a hidden land sort of lost to the outside world, and then as the riders go up here, they're going to be able to see everything that's going on in here. So think kind of giant mushrooms, luminescent light, waterfalls, foliage, maybe even some cave dwellers of some kind, I don't really know. And of course a walkthrough area at the bottom of the cave here, because there is an entrance here, and that way the visitors to the park that aren't on the ride can also come and enjoy it and actually get a better view, because, well, the ride's going to be kind of obscured, I guess, but it should still be very cool. We're basically creating a whole new biome in here. And I have an idea of how amazing this is going to look in my head, but let's just hope I can actually pull it off. Alongside that, I also need to sort out the mountain exterior because it's just a great big stone blob at the moment. So all in all, we've once again got a lot to do today. Story of my life on this ride, I tell you. I do also want to say a quick thank you for all the feedback on the last episode. Lots of awesome ideas for what we can actually put in this area, and we are going to be expanding on this, of course, as we go on. There's going to be more logs. We're going to sort out lots of other bits and bobs around here. So please do keep your ideas coming. I love reading them, and together we're going to make this ride look absolutely amazing. And although there was a world download last week for YouTube members and patrons, we will, of course, give another world update as soon as this area here is finished, so you can actually explore it for yourselves. But anyway, mountain interior. I think to make a start on this bit, what I want to do is kind of sort out everything down the bottom here and get some ledges in, things like that. Just kind of give myself a canvas to work from for making this cave. I might also get the tracking closed as well, just so I can see exactly what space we have. And then from there, we're going to start making this place look awesome. Hopefully. Well, I just came over here to get some spruce, and, well, there's been a slight problem. Yeah, it turns out some of my trees got a little bit too big, and they've taken half my building with it. I was warned about this in the comments. I do have a solution, which we'll get to in just a moment, but first, I need to replace all of the missing blocks up here, which conveniently are now in here. This is not what I was intending to do today. Okay, the building's back together, and what we're going to do to prevent that happening again is make use of some copycat layers. Got plenty of these, and what we're going to do is basically just, there we go, get them rotated the right way around. We're just going to go over all of these logs on the inside, and that should solve our problem. Because if there's no visible logs for these ones to attach to, then, well, it's just not going to happen again, is it? But I do now have to spend ages placing all of these. Alright, well, I think I've fixed it, but I have used up all the spruce I had, which is why I came in here in the first place. So I'm back to square one with having no spruce, so I'm going to have to let that run for a little bit before we can actually carry on the inside of the mountain. Oh no! Oh no! It took my roof as well! Ah, dang it. Alright, so I've just got to replace this roof quickly as well. Alright, I've got my roof back on. Let's hope we don't have to deal with any of that sort of thing again, and hopefully I can get some spruce. But while we wait, I may as well show you where I've got to so far in the mountain, in just kind of trying to get everything sorted out. So, I have actually managed to encase the whole of the sort of water track type thing here. I've still got to do the bottom bit. We're still going to attach that to the ceiling, probably with some chains. But I have blocked off the back here, sorted out the cave entrance for the boat. So this is where the boat's actually going to first come out into the big cave. I've shaped the pool in the middle a bit better, although it's not full of water yet, and I've also worked out where the path's going to go, because it's going to kind of weave through this area here. Probably raised. I think raised might work quite well, especially if we're going to have loads of cool stuff on the cave floor. And then that's going to loop around, go through this bit here. Once again, it's going to be a raised path, which then connects back to the outside. But in this area here, it does also open to the track below. So I think we can make quite a cool scene in here. I don't really know what yet, but we'll work something out. So that way there's something for everyone. So if you're on the ride, you see more of the downstairs. If you're walking, you see more of the upstairs. But it should work overall. But yes, I do need to get some more spruce. I need some dark oak so I can get all this bit here here finished, I need to replace the rail that's in there to make that the spruce rail. So once I've got that done, I'll bring you back in, and then we're probably going to have a little chat about mushrooms. Giant sparkly mushrooms. I've got the water in, I've got the track sorted, at least for now, although I do really hate that big sort of dark oak splotch we've got going across the ceiling, but we'll work something out for that later. But this is how much space we've got to work with, and it's quite a lot. More than I was expecting, in fact. So now I guess it's time to figure out what we're going to fill this space with. This is the part where we talk about giant mushrooms. So this actually feels like a great project to dive into my build process when tackling something new like this. And step one is research. So although I have an idea in my head of how I want this to look, I don't know what blocks I'm going to use, I don't know what the mushrooms are going to look like, I don't really know what the floor's going to look like. So that's where the research comes in. And the first part of research is actually to go back in time to Season 2 of Truly Bedrock. Oh yes, here we are, back on Truly Bedrock Season 2. And what I want to look at is actually in here. So this was my sort of very early attempt at a cave that looked a little bit mystical. And to be honest, not actually as bad as I remember. And as you can see from my mushroom attempts, they were a little bit struggling, let's say. And I mean, they're big, but that's about it. That's all they've got going for them, I think. So there's definitely a lot we can learn from this, I believe. But the good thing is, with Create, we do have a lot of other blocks we can use. Although I do like the glass here. The dripping glass works really well as well, so I think we might utilize that. And I particularly like the floor with all these mushrooms, but we've also got Farmer's Delight in our current series, so we can have lots of different varieties of these sort of ground mushrooms going on. We've also got these little mushrooms going around. They're pretty cool. A bit of a waterfall coming down off the side into this pool. That's also quite nice. Well, it's very dark over there. And I quite like these little mushrooms as well, so we might come up with some new designs for those. And I'll be honest, I quite like the fact there's a couple of trees in here as well. I think that actually helps to mix it up quite a bit, and this bridge is nice as well. Ooh. I did all right back in the day, didn't I? But I think there's a lot we can take from this cave into the new one. These little wall mushrooms are quite cool as well. So I'm glad we came and paid this place a visit. And if you do want to explore this world for yourself, all of the Truly Bedrock worlds are actually available. Look at me, what am I wearing? I'm all torn up. But yes, if you do want to explore the Truly Bedrock worlds, they are available on the Truly Bedrock website. Obviously, they don't work in Java, but yeah, still good to have a look around and see what we did. Wow, this place was actually a lot bigger than I remember. And this style of buildings with the mushrooms and things on the roof, that could actually work quite well in our fantasy area as we expand it. But anyway, we're getting distracted. More research needed. I've done some research and grabbed some images and dumped them all into this Miro board. So Miro is a website where basically it's like a big sort of digital whiteboard, and I do like using this for sort of coming up with ideas, and it's good just to spam down loads of images as well for inspiration. But anyway, this is what we're working with. We've got loads of sort of cool mushroom designs in here. I like all the sort of lighting that's actually in the mushrooms, making them luminescent. That does look really cool and create a very nice effect. But this should hopefully give you an idea of the kind of atmosphere we're looking to create. So lots of big mushrooms and small mushrooms. We're going to have water running around as well, of course. And I do really like these two here with these sort of stone bridges, I guess, that they've got going across here. They do look very cool. We've also got some more traditional looking mushrooms, although they are absolutely massive. And this one here with all the sort of drippy bits coming down from the ceiling, I think that looks really cool as well, which tells me we're probably going to need to get ourselves some end rods. And continuing on, there's just kind of more of the same idea. Just lots of different mushrooms, different styles of mushrooms, different colors, and even just the collections of foliage sort of in some of these corners. And in one of these, yep, over here, I do quite like these sort of crystal bits sticking out as well. May do something like that? I don't really know. But this is what we're going to use as the base of our inspiration. So over here in this creative flat world, I think there's a few things I want to do before we start designing the big mushrooms. And the first of those things is to have a little look at the mushrooms we already have access to, thanks to, well, I did say Farmer's Delight, I believe, earlier, but it's not actually that. It's actually the chipped mod that gives us lots of different variants of mushrooms. Must have had food on the mind earlier. But what I want to do here is just place down one of each of these different types of mushrooms we have access to, and that is all of the different red ones. There's actually quite a lot there, but the main reason I actually wanted to look at these is because if we're making giant mushrooms, I do want them to look like they're kind of part of the same family as these ones. Didn't think of that now, did I? So that was the tiny little mushroom there that grew up. We know not to use that one. I think it makes sense for me just to leave the rest of these out, just in case other ones decide they want to grow into full-size mushrooms as well. Not gonna lie, I didn't even know that was possible. Maybe it was just that specific tiny mushroom that did that. Nope, this one did it as well. Jeez. Oh, and this one. Okay, right, good to know. Right, and this one over here seems to be spreading. Also good to know. We're learning a lot about mushrooms here. Although I do wonder, are they growing because I put them on rich soil? I'm gonna run a little experiment here. While we're building, I'm just gonna leave these over here and see if these ones here grow as well. But I think it might just be the farmer's soil. Because of that, it kind of every now and then gives them the equivalent of a bit of bone meal. And I think that's what's making them grow. So in theory, as long as we don't put them on that stuff, we should be fine to use all of these. But yeah, that was weird. I was not expecting that. Also, thanks to Chipped, we have access to all these different styles of mushroom blocks that we can use in actually building up our mushrooms, which is also very cool. But more importantly, I don't actually quite like these, the different varieties of stem that we have here. So let's just have a quick look. Lots of variety in those. That's good. That one looks a bit like baked beans. Something else to remember is we do, of course, also have warped fungus as well as crimson mushrooms. So we have even more variety than initially expected. This is good. As well as these other sort of crimson root things, we've got these little bulby ones as well. So we've got lots of cool stuff we can work with to make the floor look awesome. But I think it's time we stop procrastinating and actually try and design some big old mushrooms. Now, first thing I'm going to do is just use these broken mushroom stem blocks, apparently, and just create a rough sort of shape for one of the larger mushrooms. And on looking at the pictures I've got, for the most part, they tend to essentially kind of start chunkier at the bottom and just get thinner as they go up. If we start with maybe a basic shape like that, then we can use some copycat panels just to make things a little bit more interesting in certain places. And this should hopefully help give it a little bit more shape. Thankfully, we have a lot of variety with these, so we can literally just sort of create different sizes as we're going up. We can use these bite blocks just to build up small areas as well. I think they'll work quite nicely. Let's just maybe get a few more in here. But that does soften the shape down the bottom here quite a lot, which should make this look a little bit better once we're done. There we go. Something like that works quite nicely for at least a base to work from. Now we've got to work out the top of the mushroom. This is going to be the hard bit. Now for this first one, I think we're going to keep things simple and just start with the red here. And looking over there at our experiments, I think it's safe to say that not only was it the definitely the rich soil that was actually making the mushrooms grow, but yeah, if we look at these sort of red ones here with the white bits on top, I don't think I want to add the white bits on this one, but I do want to do a red mushroom. So yeah, we'll see how we go. The first thing I want to do is just create some kind of a basic shape to work from. And I think something like that could work for our first one, but I think maybe I want to bring this down a little bit more on this side here. But we're just going to use some copycat layers for this, because then it means we can do things in a bit of more of a gentle fashion. Yeah, that softens that edge nicely. And now I think we're once again going to make use of some of these copycat layers and copycat slices and things like that, because that really does help to sort of soften things up a little bit. And there we go. The addition of some copycat layers has certainly softened that. But now what we need to do is make it look good. Shape-wise, though, I'm actually quite pleased with that. I think that will work nicely. As an example of the kind of thing we're going to be building in the cave, of course, we're probably not actually going to use this exact one, but I'm just trying to figure out the techniques we're going to use to make this work. So let's work out some complementary blocks to this lovely red terracotta. So we've got stripped mangrove wood at a slightly darker tone. We've got this sort of smooth red mushroom block. We've got some red concrete. So maybe that's more like this. We've got our red glazed terracotta, which is very light. And then off in slightly different tones from the mangrove, we've then got netherrack, so that could work quite nicely as well. And we've also got these sort of darker versions of the netherrack too. So I think we've got quite a lot of variety just within the reds here we can use. There's also more, but we don't want to overdo it. So let's start mixing things up a little bit around here. And I'm just going to potter around a little bit and play around with some textures and see how we can get this looking just using these blocks we've got in our inventory at the moment. And then we'll see if we need to add any additional ones just to make it pop off a bit further. All right, that's looking pretty good. I think that's working nicely. It's nice and sort of mixed up. We've got some dark patches, some light patches. Yeah, and the shape looks pretty good too. Now I need to sort out the inside, and I have no idea what I'm going to do with this. I wonder if maybe using a mix of copycat boards like this, because we can put them on every surface, and some coral, maybe that'll work? Well, that's quite a nice one. That could work nicely. Yeah, I'm not so sure on that. Don't think I like that. Looks a bit too bland. Maybe I need something that's still got a little bit of red in it. So maybe let's try out some of these crimson planks and see how they look. I think I already prefer it, but let's see how we get on once we've got the whole thing covered. Though to be honest, we probably don't want to be covering up all of the inside. I think it'd be nice to leave some gaps so we can still see the sort of red of the mushroom above shining through. Maybe I should stretch out some of the stem a little bit as well. I definitely want to fatten up this stem in a couple of places near the top here. Yeah, I think I like that. The crimson wood sets that off just nicely. Now to see if we can add a little bit of luminescence. And I think a good technique for that is going to be to use some of these glass panes of sort of, reds, the purples, the pinks, maybe some orange, as well as maybe mixing in some end rods. And then we might be able to get this looking quite cool. Let's maybe start with the red at the top there and a little bit lighter down the bottom. Or not, that looks a bit weird. Maybe let's try with the purple, because that kind of blends with the bit underneath as well. I'm just going to add a few variations of this so we can see what works, or what might work at least. So is something like that potentially going to work? I think the purple does actually work better than the red on the hanging down bits. But let's see how this looks in the dark. Help if I turn my brightness down. Okay, yep, a nice subtle bit of luminescence there, not too bad. Something else we might be able to do here, if we use these copycat buttons and just add in some little shroom lights, that could work nicely. Just for a little bit more lightness up there. These potentially work on the outside as well. I mean, they could. Not sure if I want them to, though. I could even replace the occasional cube here with a lit up bit, maybe. Not sure on those. But I think what I'm going to do now is work on the stem and just see if we can work a little bit of texture into this. I think if we were to use maybe some diorite, calcite, some bone blocks as well as the stem, this could look quite nice. All right, I think that's looking pretty good. Let's just sort out the floor here a bit because it's not going to be sitting on grass, and that could help us tie it into the sort of terrain that's going to go around it a little bit more. I just want to see how this is going to look. Well, I think that's looking pretty good. This could work nicely. We've got all of these sort of random mushrooms that are obviously from the chipped workbenches, and I think they work nicely, but tied in with a little bit of dripstone and some of these mushrooms here. This is literally just a fence post, some copycat layers, and a variety of mushroom blocks. I say a variety, I've actually used the same one in all three, but you get the idea. This is just to kind of set the scene. And I think that's looking pretty good. That gives me some confidence I might be able to pull this off. But I'm going to spend a bit of time designing a few more mushroom types and different colors and things like that. And then once we've got a few designs, we can hop into the other world and actually start placing some. And then we're going to make that cave look amazing. Well, it's taken a couple of hours, but I now have a selection of mushrooms, and I'm actually quite pleased with how they've come out. I particularly like the brown ones at the back here. I think they work well. But we've also got these purpley ones here, which I'm not quite so sold on, but I think they work as a nice transition between the red and the blue. And then of course we've got these sort of blue doubly ones here as well, and these have taken me that long to build. I've actually decided to make schematics of all of them, and we're going to use the schematic cannon to bring some of these into the world, and then we're going to sort of manually make up the ones to fill in the gaps. That'll also tell me what resources I need to gather to make these things, because I'm fairly sure I don't have most of the stuff I've actually built these out of. Primarily the mushroom stem, that's going to take forever to collect. But I think once we get some of these in the cave and then we sort out all the cave floor as well, we're going to have some sort of lush green bits in between the sort of brown deady kind of bits where the mushrooms are growing out of. I think this could work quite nicely. But I've got my schematics now, so let's hop back to the cave and see how they fit when they're actually in place. But because we of course don't have the resources at the moment, we're just going to plonk down some schematics and kind of see how they look when they're in the cave. Primarily size-wise, and I think the purple ones look about right. But let's just try out some of the others. So that's the big red one. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. Small red one, obviously we know that's going to be fine. And then what's this one? Okay, this is the big brown one. Small blue ones. Okay, cool. I think these are going to work quite nicely. What I need to do now, though, is make a list of all the resources I need to get because, well, there's quite a lot. And for that, we're going to need a clipboard. I've made a big old list, and I think this is pretty much everything I'm going to need. I'm going to need certain variants of different ones of these, but these are the core resources. So we've got the wood and mushroom stuff from the nether, we've got the terracottas, we need some spruce, as always. We're going to need mushroom stems as well as red and brown mushrooms and the actual mushroom blocks and some shroom lights, once again from the nether. We need end rods, we need basalt, mud, all the dirt, podzol, fences, and, of course, all the zinc in the world, because we're using quite a lot of copycat panels for this. And as is always the case, I'm basically out of zinc. But considering the huge list of stuff I need to get my grubby little mitts on, I think it's safe to say we're about to have some kind of resource gathering montage. Better be some epic music for this, it's going to be an epic job. taken absolutely hours, but I think we're pretty much there. I've got a bag full of materials, and everything on my list has a tick next to it. Wonderful.
Did you remember to get the dripstone?
Dang it! Alrighty, now we have everything we need. And probably some stuff we don't as well that we kind of picked up along the way, but I think this should be enough to get us started. And the first thing to work out is what mushroom I want to put at the top of this sort of hill bit here, and I think it wants to be one of the big red ones. That's not what I meant to do. Right, I'm going to put that bag down there, though, and we're going to find our schematics again. And we're looking for the red large one. Here we go. Now we can just nudge this into position. And I think that's about where I want this one. Then we'll grab the schematic cannon. We're going to need to go get ourselves some gunpowder. But first off, let's just quickly check if we've actually got everything we need for this one. Bone blocks. I forgot about that. And we do need to make the broken mushroom stems from the actual normal ones. That's fine. We also need to make some of the dark, smooth red mushroom blocks, some eroded diorite. Basically, we just need to make some variants by the looks of it. Oh, and red concrete. I completely forgot about that. And the mangrove wood. I forgot about that as well. Oh, dear. Overall, though, we didn't do too bad. I'm not too concerned about these mushrooms and things like that because that's all just floor stuff, and we're going to be doing that separately anyway. But these other bits, this should only take a moment to get together. Okay, hopefully that's everything. We can add some gunpowder now as well. So we don't care about that, or these mushrooms, but we do still need some eroded netherrack and some dark, smooth red mushroom block, which I have made, I just didn't put in the box. So eroded netherrack was the last bit we needed, and that should be good to go. Yep, there we go. Just missing those few mushrooms, and we don't care about those. We'll set this to skip the missing blocks. We're good to go. Let's make a mushroom. Well, that's the first mushroom in, and I'm very pleased with it. But before we go getting the other mushrooms in, I think what I want to do is actually work out where the path's going to go and how that's all going to work out. And then we'll figure out where the main mushrooms are going to go, and then that should lead us nicely into being able to do the rest of the floor, the landscape, making all of this look nice because it looks horrible and bland at the moment. But the very first thing I want to do is work out where this path's going to go. And I think I am going to have it as kind of a raised boardwalk type thing that just kind of links up over to there. Let's see what we can work out. So I've marked out roughly where I think I want the first walkway to go in this area. But, yeah, we're definitely going to need to add some more, I think. And something about the Truly Bedrock Season 2 world that I did like was the kind of deep channels with the rivers and the basalt and so on. And I'm wondering if we can do something like that over this side here. And then on this side, have it a little bit lower, kind of how it is now with all the mushrooms growing up and so on. And I think that could be a nice kind of contrast between the two sides. But with that in mind, before I get this bridge in place properly, I think what I want to do is actually work on the landscape down here, because that's going to kind of dictate what the walkway does over this side. I'm actually toying with the idea of having the walkways kind of winding up through the sort of side of the mountain as well, just to offer some viewpoints of the log flume at the top, and pretty much just to make the walls look a lot more interesting. But we'll come to that later. For now, let's focus on this area down here. Well, I got a bit carried away and I ended up marking out more than I should have done, but this is definitely starting to look a lot better. So if we have a look here, we've got the water that's sort of coming through from the back of the waterfall. That's now flowing down and splitting into a couple of channels and going into the lake over here. And instead of that boring curvy bridge we had before, we've now got this sort of natural pathway that goes up and over this way. And if we look from afar, you can see how that works a little bit better, so it all connects up around the sides here. And that gives us plenty of space around here for all the mushrooms and the growth. And we've also got some ledges as well. So we've got one over this side, we've got one up here, we've got another couple over here. These ones actually have pools of water in them as well, which is what's giving us these waterfalls, which I think also really adds to it and looks pretty cool. But I think that's starting to look pretty good. The next step is going to be to get all the basalt in, get some texturing down, and of course, start planting some mushrooms. But all in all, I think that's looking pretty good so far. Oh, hello, Firefly. What are you doing in here? It would actually be quite cool if we had a bunch of these flying around in here all the time, but I have no idea where they come from, how they spawn, or anything like that. But if we can find a way to catch some, we could potentially name tag them and trap them in here. They might eventually find their way out, but that could be quite cool. Bring a bit of movement to the area. Anyway, enough pondering. We've got some work to do. that's enough of that. I've run out of time. But look at this place. It looks amazing. So the last clip I recorded was actually on Wednesday lunchtime. It's now Friday afternoon. That's how long this has taken me. Hence why you got a very slow and beautiful time lapse, just to show the passage of time as I have gradually built up this cave. But I am loving it. We'll ignore the health and safety issues around the fact there's no fence on this walkway over here, but it's fine. It's my theme park and we don't care about health and safety. But I love how this area has come out. Thankfully, I didn't actually need to make any more mushrooms. The ones that we actually made in creative and then made schematics of have been fine to fill this cavern. I think they work really, really well. I've just added a few additional sort of brown ones on the side of the mountain here. We've done a little bit of texturing here and there. We've got some green patches with lots of dingly danglies, and I think that looks awesome as well. And I almost forgot about roots as well, but look at those. They look awesome. I particularly love this little bridge as you go over here. As I say, bit of a health and safety issue, but the views you get from here are pretty cool. I do like the fact it's dark in this corner here, but then it kind of gets lighter as you look around, and as you look over this side, it's all nice and bright and lovely shiny. The path then continues down here and then goes into the small cave over here, which I have not had time to do, sadly. This is going to be a whole other project because we've still got to do all the way down here. We've got to do all of the track and stuff that goes under here. So yeah, that's going to be a project for another day. But as you walk through here and just walk into the cave, it looks glorious. And although there's no water in it yet, if we jump in here and hitch a ride, we might still need to trim back some of these. I just saw that one grow. I have tried to shear them as they've grown a bit. I didn't have enough berries to actually sort of grow them myself and then shear them. So I've been going around and gradually shearing the ends to stop them from growing. And yeah, if any of them get too long, well, they can be sure I'm coming back for them. But with the log flume, as you ride up here, when you get to the top here, this one definitely needs to be shortened. Let me grab my shears and we'll snip the end of that. These ones, oh, these ones are all unsnipped as well. Oh, geez. Keep finding more unsnipped ones. Oh, there's loads of them. But anyway, as I was saying, as you get to the top of the log flume, the view you're going to get is pretty awesome. We've got all these glowberries around. We've got the big mushrooms. We've got the trees and so on as well. We've got more mushrooms on the walls, these dingly dangly light gooey things. I don't really know what they are, but they look cool. And then you'll bust out and go down. But I absolutely love this. I do need to get the water in at the top here, though. That will really finish this top bit off nicely. Looks a bit weird without it. But yeah, what a project. This looks awesome. And hopefully next episode, we can actually get this ride finished. But I hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye now.